Hello, everyone. My name is Izharuddin, and I welcome you all to this event that we are having. Before going on into this event that we have brought for you, why don't I start off with the MLSA program about the MLSA ambassadors and their roles and their responsibilities in the community, and what is the role of the MLSA Pakistan. So MLSA is a quite is a platform for young students to be ambassadors in their communities to promote Microsoft technologies among their peers, among their students in the university and outside the university. And the role of MLSA Pakistan is to acknowledge all of these and enable the community and empower the people with all these technologies and all these emerging technologies that the people still don't know about. Um, for this event that we have scheduled for you, it's about it's a virtual hands-on session on administering SharePoint in Microsoft Azure, and for that we have a very skilled and professional person with us from all the way from Greece, Boutsioulis Konstantinos. Um, he is the country leader for Greece, Cyprus, and Malta, the Microsoft Student Ambassadors Program, and the Gold Microsoft Student Ambassador Program. He also works as a SharePoint administrator and developer since 2006, mainly interested in Microsoft technologies and have participated in 11 Microsoft official courses. Most of them are about SharePoint and SQL Server, and international events and boot camps as technology speaker. He's the founder at Synapsys Net Project for Microsoft Imagine Cup 2016. He has also experienced in IT with a demonstrated history of 15 years of working in the primary and secondary education industry. He's also skilled in administering SharePoint Server, developing SharePoint programming with C#, ASP, .NET, HTML, CSS, JS, SQL, administering, and developing SQL Server. Lesson planning, educational technology, curriculum development, and teacher training as well. He is the guest speaker for us for this session, and he will be telling us and you people about installing and administering SharePoint in Microsoft Azure. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Hello all, hello my friend Hanzaila and my friend Isari. It is a great pleasure for me to be here today with you. I'm Konstantinos Boutsioulis, I'm country leader for Greece, Cyprus and Malta. And I'm working in SharePoint for more than 14 years. I think that it comes the 15th year now. So when my friend Hanzail asked me to present something about SharePoint, it was a great pleasure for me. I would like to thank all of you. I think that you are the most stronger community in our region because you are hardworking, all of you. I can see your actions, and it is they are an amazing actions. I use you as an example in my ambassadors. All the time I tell them, just see what the Pakistan do, and the Pakistan ambassadors have a lot of actions about in Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador program. But today I want to speak about SharePoint. Let me make a small introduce, not for me, because I think that Isar said a lot of things about me. I'm trying hard 15 years to become professional in this sector of technology. And I would like to say you, the first question is, what is SharePoint? You will ask me, what is SharePoint? SharePoint, it is not only just a portal that we can use. SharePoint is more than a portal. The magic word in this SharePoint infrastructure or farm is the collaboration. I think that SharePoint is created for collaboration. We can use this portal not just only to make pages or to branding pages for our company or for our community or for our educational foundation. We can use it to have collaborations between the members that they belongs to this farm. And also we can make a lot of things. We can use all the services of SharePoint. If I start speaking about SharePoint, I can speak weeks continuously for SharePoint, because SharePoint is more than just a simple portal. Also, I have to tell you that the big secret in SharePoint architecture, before I start I show you my presentation, I have to tell you that it is a great tool to use it in your company, because you can make a lot of things. You can combine solutions, and we have a different architectures in SharePoint. For example, we have, at first we need to discuss. This is the secret that no one will tell you. You have to discuss a lot to find which architecture is the best for your organization or for your company. And when you specify the needs of your organization, then you have to start SharePoint. Yeah, then you have to start to deploy SharePoint. Today I will show you how to create a SharePoint, just a single server SharePoint in Microsoft Azure. I think that the future is in the Azure, because you have to understand that we use this architecture as a disaster recovery scenario. We call it a disaster recovery scenario because we have on-premise our SharePoint, and we can use it virtual machine in Azure as a disaster recovery servers. So I will just show you how to create a single server. It is not recommended, please keep this, it is not recommended to make SharePoint like the way that I show you today, because today we have a demo. It is a simple demo, and I will explain during my presentation why it is not recommended to do it in this way. But at first, let me share my presentation. Okay, this is my presentation. No, I have to start from the beginning, because I have, I think, 100 slides. Okay, from the beginning. Can you see my screen? If Hansaila can tell me that.
Yes, it's okay. It's all okay.
So the first thing that we need to do is to create the virtual machine in Azure. It is a simple procedure, and we can do it with a few clicks. We need a subscription in Azure, a paid subscription in Azure. So when we pay for this subscription, we will use the Microsoft Azure portal to log in. The first thing that we have to do is just to create a virtual machine. Here, as you can see in this slide, we need to give a name in our resource name. I called it SharePoint demo because it is a demo. And the second one is just to give a name in my virtual machine. I use the SRV SP. SP means SharePoint, and SRV means server. And I choose the region that is near me, West Europe. The second thing that you have to understand is to choose a good size for SharePoint. And this is a problem because I'm not sure. Yes, this is the slide that I want to show you. You have to choose something which is a very strong virtual machine to host Microsoft SharePoint, because SharePoint is a very strong tool, and it needs at least 8 GB of RAM and at least 2 or 4 cores. I choose 4 cores and 16 GB of RAM because this is the recommended from Microsoft. Microsoft says that you need at least 16 GB and 4 cores. And as you can see, it is expensive. It is not just for one machine. Imagine that we have farms to manage that have more than 14 servers. So the cost is very big for this situation. I have in my farm 16 servers that host my SharePoint, and I have over 20,000 users in my farm. That's why I think that I got the expertise, because I can make experiments in a big farm. But you have to choose at least 16 RAM and 4 cores if you want your SharePoint to be available. Because if you just use 8 GB of RAM, it will not be available anytime. And this is very important when you create a portal, because imagine that you have a portal that it has downtime 1 hour per day. It is not recommended to have downtime in your servers. That's why we need a strong machine, and we have to pay for this. The second, as you can see, I have to give a username and a password, a strong password with complexity if I need to access my virtual machine in Azure. And as you can see, I need to allow the selected port in RDB. I need RDB because with the remote desktop, I will manage my server later, and I will install my SharePoint and my SQL Server in the same virtual machine. It is not recommended. I tell again the same thing, but it's not recommended. I will show you how to install in a different server during our presentation. The next step is to choose a disk, and we prefer to choose a standard SSD disk, because SSD disk, you know that it is better than the others, and we leave Azure to make our subnet. If you choose to create a SharePoint on premise, not in Azure, you have to be careful with your network management. All the servers must be under the same domain, under the same network, under the same subnet, because they have to collaborate, to communicate all the time, and you have to open all the ports between the server of SharePoint. I saw in my career that we have a lot of problems when we have restricted networks and doesn't allow SharePoint servers to communicate. So I prefer to use all the servers under the same network or under the same subnet. Now, and you can ask me, okay, but you told us that we can make a disaster recovery in a different data center. Yes, we can do it. I will explain you how to do it, but not in this presentation, because this is a different approach of how to install SharePoint, a high availability SharePoint with more than one servers. Then you have to make some, then you have to implement, or you have to manage your network to communicate all the servers without a problem. The next slide, as you can see, okay, I just press next advanced, okay, and I leave Azure to make all the default for the monitoring. I choose just enable because I need a simple monitoring. As you can see, I made a mistake in this presentation. I activated the enable shutdown. No, do not enable shutdown, because every day at 7 o'clock the server will shut down. So you have to disable, you have to keep it off, not on. The next slide, as you can see, is the other side of the page. And at the end, okay, we will just press review, and we have to press next in this step. And at the end, we have to validate at first our machine, and just press create. Microsoft Azure needs a few minutes to create this machine, this virtual machine, and the network. And as you can see in this slide, we have the Azure in a few minutes started creating the network, and the SRV SP is the virtual machine. It takes more than 2 or 3 or 5 minutes, I think. I don't remember. It is something that you can do it easily. And when the Azure finish all these jobs, it says you go to the resource. So now it's time to go to the resource group that we created. And now, as you can see, I hide a few things that are my public IPs and my subscription ID. That's why I keep it secret, because it is information that you have to keep it safety. Do not ever publish your IPs. Okay, I understand that if you are in a company, you will have just only a few servers in the DMZ, but in your local network, you have to keep it secret. Okay, the next step is just to connect with my server. If I press connect, and now I will choose, as you can see, download RDB file. I can download an RDB file in my computer locally, and I will access my server, my SharePoint server. I will give my username and the password that I choose for this. And the first step, if we want to create a SharePoint, is just to install Active Directory domain services. Because without Active Directory domain services, we cannot have the opportunity to have SharePoint. That's why the first step is to create Active Directory. When we get the remote of our server, the first thing in the dashboard, in the server manager, is just to add a new role. It's not a role, it's a feature. That's why it says that add role or feature. We will press, and as you can see, we will press next. We need the role-based or feature-based installation, which is the first choice. And as you can see, the system understands the name of my server and the IP address. This is the local address, the subnet address. Okay, and we will choose it and press next. In the next step, we have a lot of things that we can choose. I prefer to choose only things that I use in my SharePoint. That's why I just press Active Directory Domain Services is the name of the feature. And as you can see, if I press Add Feature, it's starting install this feature, and it checks in Active Directory Domain Server. Do not use the first one, which says Active Directory Certificate Service, because if you cannot make this security service, you cannot install the features with the name Active Directory Domain Service. I just say you a few secrets, not to use it as in the best way, which is the best way to install SharePoint. So when we install this feature, also we have to enable the framework of 3.5, because if we have a custom solution in our SharePoint later, we might need to use this framework, and it is better to enable it from the beginning and not after our installation. As you can see, when we finish this feature, we have to press in the red exclamation mark that you can see in the top of the page next to the manage, next to the flag, and it will say promote this server as a domain controller. Also in this slide, you can see that we have the opportunity to connect our SharePoint with Azure Active Directory. It's a model that I saw now that many companies uses. They prefer to use Azure Active Directory because and it might be a hybrid solution. We call it hybrid solution when we use some features from Azure and some features from on-premise farm. So we can do it if you want an Azure Active Directory. We can configure an Azure directory for our SharePoint. In my presentation, I just prefer to make this server domain Active Directory server. So the next step is just to wait and the system start installing this feature. When we finish, it might ask for restart. And as I told you earlier, if we press in the exclamation mark in the top of the page and next to the flag, we can see that the server said promote this server as a domain controller. We need a domain controller to authenticate it, to authenticate our users in our SharePoint farm. That's why we started with Active Directory configuration, because it is the first step. So we will press the promote, and the second thing that we need to do is just to create a new forest. As you can see, I changed this selection and I choose the add a new forest, and I wrote down my name, boutsioulis.com. It is not the name that we will see in a public URL. It is an internal URL. You can see it only in your farm. It is the domain name. It's just the domain name. It is not the public URL that you can see in the net later. For example, if I press boutsioulis.com, it will redirect you in my portal, in my personal blog. So I keep this as a domain, as an internal domain, okay, not external. The second thing that I have to do is just to give a password, okay. The system, I will not create the DNS delegation because the DNS delegation will create it automatically by the system. And the next step is the NetBIOS. The NetBIOS name, the system will understand my domain name and it will throw .com. It will keep the other, which is the NetBIOS domain name for my server. And then we have the paths for database folder, for log files and sysvol folder. Okay, we will keep it in C. I will tell you a few things later about how to install SharePoint, because there we have a lot of things to discuss. It is very important to understand that we cannot use the same disk for the reporting, for the log. I have a noise.
Hello, Konstantinos.
Yes.
Konstantinos, can you please little bit zoom your presentation? Audience cannot see clearly.
Yes, yes. This is yes. This is the paths that we can use it. I will explain you later how to use it in just how to use it, how to change these files for SQL Server. Okay, let's go in the next slide. And in the next slide, as you can see, I will focus again. As you can see, we have some details from the system about our domain name, and we have to press next. As you can see, the system understands that we have some critical errors. It is not an error. It will allow me to install SharePoint, but I keep it because it is a test demo. If my SharePoint is not in a test environment, I need to discuss all these to find all these critical errors and to make I forgot, to just try to use it in a different way to stop these errors, to stop these critical errors. Okay, but I can do it in SharePoint. I don't have problem to continue with this error. Okay, just give me a few seconds. The same, it's the same slide. And now the next step is just to go in Active Directory. If I press in the Start button, I have a box that it says Active Directory User and Computers. This is the next step, and we have to discuss a lot in this step, because we need for a professional SharePoint farm, we need 8 accounts, and the most account is, and all these account is, the first account is the SP setup account, or SharePoint setup account, which is the most important account. And we will have, that's why I told you in the beginning of my presentation, we need to discuss a lot if we have to create, for example, a SharePoint farm. If we need analysis services, so we have to create a SQL analysis account. If we need, for example, integration services with SharePoint, we need an account for the integration services. We need an account for to manage the SQL Server. So we will name this account SQL account. Okay, I just created 2 users, the SP setup user and the SQL account user. But if I have complexity in my architecture, I need to make more than 2 accounts. I need to make accounts that are based in the roles that every IT man has in his organization. Okay, and with a simple way, I have to just press new user, and the next step is just to give the name. And as you can see, SP setup, I create the first account, which is the SP setup. Look at here, we have Boutsioulis.com. The system understands my domain name and it creates this user under my domain name. Okay, and we have to press next. Please also keep full name, last name, first name. Keep all these details informed, because later you need to find some things for these details. The next step is just to give a strong password with complexity, and you have to uncheck the first choice and check the other 2, the next 2. User cannot change the password and password never expire. This is something very important if you don't want to change all the time password and the user change all the time password. The IT manager, the IT team can manage the password, can change the password, not just the users. We have third-party providers that they can make these changes in our Active Directory, or if this Active Directory is based in Azure, we can do it easily. Sorry, I have sound down of my house. Okay, and the next step is just to press next. If we press next, the system create this user and it tell me just press finish. Next step, something which is very important, and believe me, I spent a lot of nights to find all this information before I started presented not only to you but to anyone, or to use it in my organization. It is here in this slide you can see a secret. Every account that it is responsible to create SharePoint must be in the group of administrators, because after that, if you don't add this account to administrator group, you will have problems. You will have a lot of problems when you install your SharePoint, and then it will be difficult to manage SharePoint. I think that you have to do it from the beginning. SharePoint is a strong product. You need to be careful. You need to read the documents. You need to keep the documentation for what you are doing every time. So it is a secret, not a secret, you can find it in the net, but it is a secret that no one tells so easy. You have to make all these user administrators. If you can see in the next slide, I add these 2 accounts, SP setup and SQL account. I made it administrators. Okay, also my name. This is my account, my local account. I made it administrator. Okay, and now we finished with the first installation, which was the Active Directory installation, and now we have the most important installation when we install a SharePoint farm. I think I cannot tell officially, but I can tell you that from my experience, the SQL Server is the most important layer of SharePoint. SharePoint is the front end, SQL is the back end, okay? And the SQL has all the information stored in the instance. I also have to tell you, before I start presenting how to install SQL Server for SharePoint, that it is not recommended to have in the same instance a SQL Server for SharePoint and a SQL Server for another ERP system. You have to be careful with this approach. You have to keep it alone, because in the future you might have a bottleneck. We have a lot of many information. We have a lot of transaction with the database, so that is very important to keep it alone. Because if we use all the features of SharePoint, for example, if I use the search feature in Microsoft SharePoint, then I will have a lot of transaction with the database. And imagine that someone else trying to get a report from a CRM, for example, and it will get a lot of transaction in the database, and the instance, it is not recommended to have in the same instance. I prefer to not do it in the same SQL Server, okay? I prefer to use this SQL Server just only for SharePoint. Also, I will tell you a few things about the SQL architecture. The SQL architecture of how to build our architecture for SharePoint, we can do it in a different ways, in a different approaches. And the first approach is that we can just create a single SQL Server. Yes, but then you need to get a backup, or you need to use a tool to back up your SQL Server. It is very difficult to manage just one SQL, and imagine that in the future we might have a problem, or we might have a disaster. So then it is very difficult to back up your SharePoint. That's why we prefer the high availability solutions. The high availability solutions can do with a 2 SQL Server mirroring the first with the second. And also we have a new approach in a few years ago, which is called always on availability, high availability, always on, that has 3 SQL Server. The first make mirror with the second, and the third one is the disaster recovery, and it has a log shipping from the first server to the third one. It is the third node, and it is very important if you have the 2 of them in one data center. You can use the third node in a different data center, or you can use the third node in the Azure, in a virtual machine in Azure, not in a SQL Azure database, because it is different to use a virtual machine in Azure, and it is different to use a SQL database in Azure. If you want to keep a SQL database in Azure, then you have to keep updated all the time the SQL that you have in your on-premise farm, and it is very difficult to make changes all the time and updates all the time in your SharePoint. You have to test at first, and then you make all the changes. Be careful. Be careful. SharePoint is the most important layer that you have to install in your SharePoint farm. I will choose new server installation. Okay, standalone. Okay, I will give my product key. The next step is just to accept the agreement of Microsoft. And as you can see, now we started with installation of SQL Server. Okay, the system, as you can see, this check for updates. Okay, you have to keep updated from the beginning. And here it says that there are no updates in MySQL. Look at this. It is very interesting. What I told you earlier, it says computer domain controller. I told you from the beginning, it is not recommended to have in the same virtual machine the domain controller and the SQL Server. it is not recommended. Okay, Microsoft will let us to do it, but it is not recommended. And also, it says Windows Firewall will have a warning. Why we have a warning? Because it might create a problem later with the communication between SQL Server and Active Directory. That's why it tells you, just try to understand that keep the ports open to collaborate or to connect all these servers. Okay, let's go in the next slide. And in the next slide, I can see many people, when they are installing something, they just check all, select all. No, it is not recommended to select all. We have to select only the features that we need to install in our SQL Server. That's why I told you from the beginning, keep discussing before you start create or install your SharePoint. We have to discuss what we need. I don't want machine learning. I don't want the SQL replication. I don't want quality services or poly-based query. Okay, it's features that I don't want to use it in my SharePoint. I can do it. It is okay, I can do it, but I think we can do it only if we need it. Just press check in all these. Okay, we need a client tools. We need an SDK. Okay, and the next step is the name of the instance. Okay, I keep MS SQL Server. You can change it if you want to change your instance ID. Here is something very important. Look at this. Look at this table. SQL Server Analysis Services. I changed the account, and I told SQL account, if you can see. So if I enable a lot of things in my SQL Server, for example, if I enable analysis services, if I enable integration services, or if I enable all these features, I must change these accounts, and Access will have only the responsible role, the people who is responsible to make analysis services. That's why I change it from the local, because if my job, if I leave my job one day, it is very difficult to manage the others later, the administrators. If they change my password, they have to change everywhere the password. So keep the role as account, and the role is SQL. Okay, SQL Server Analysis. The next slide is just very, very interesting, because we might have media files in our SharePoint. We have to choose file stream, and we have to enable file stream, because with this way the SQL Server manage with a different approach the media files. It make it smaller, and it make it smaller. And the problem with the SQL Server is that it takes all the memory. The SQL Server is greedy. It takes all the memory. If I give 32 GB of RAMs, it will take all the memory. I saw it in my job. SQL Server does not care about the others. It will take all the resources of the system. So we needed a best way to approach the file system. The next slide, which is very important, as I told you in the earlier, here we have to change the directories. It is not recommended to have the database directory and the log directory and the backup directory in the same disk. We have to change, we have to create disks in our virtual machine, and we have to change the letters. For example, for log directory, we will keep the path, but we will store it in a different disk. So we will name L our log directory, and for backup, we name B. A different disk, we name B, and we keep the other path as default. For example, we have B program files, or no, we have B Microsoft SQL Server, MS SQL, the 15. It's okay, we can keep it. it will create folders and subfolders. Okay, but the problem is here just to change the directories. If we have and the log, imagine that the log report of SharePoint, it is the 40% of the database. That means that if I have continuous logging, it is very difficult to avoid a bottleneck. Okay, the next step is just here to create the tempdb, change the tempdb. Also the tempdb you have to change in the log directory, as you can see down, and here you have to enable the mixed mode authentication, because if I lose something, I will have the local admin, which is the SA, the SQL Server administrator, to access my database. Very important to enable the SA account. Okay, do not forget to do it. Next step is just here to attach for analysis services. Okay, I just use my name, but if you remember, I had an account which called a SQL account. I forgot to add him in my demo, but you have to add this SQL account. Okay, because he's responsible for this analysis service. Okay, and the same we will do in the data directories. We have to choose, and the data directories for analysis services, again, the log files in L, temp files in T, and backup files in B. Okay, change these directories. It is very, very important to do it. The next step is just we need a few time to give to SQL Server to install, and the installation is starting. And now, as you can see, I complete this installation with no errors. It is very important to not have errors at the end of this installation. If I had errors, I had to find the solution. Okay, you have to solve these problems, because if you don't solve this problem, you will have problem later. It is very important to understand that in this way we keep our SQL Server updated and completed as installation. Now we need to use the SSMS program, SQL Server Management Studio, and I will explain you in a few seconds. I will map this executable, I will press install, I will wait a few minutes, I think 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes, and at the end the system will ask me to restart. Okay, I will press restart, and then I got back the SQL Server, and I log in with my credentials. As you can see here, you have to make your, before I started tell you about how to install SharePoint now, I have to tell you that in the back, in this SSMS Studio, you have to go to the logins and make your users under logins, find your user, find the SP setup, and find the SP farm account, and make them bulk admins. It is one more secret that I have to tell you, because if you don't make them admins, you will have problem later to create databases, to create site collections. You will have a problem, because the account that is responsible to create site collection must be DB creator or DB owner. That's why you need to make them bulk admins. Okay, now we are in our SharePoint server. It's the time to install SharePoint server. We have to map the ISO. Okay, the first thing that we need to do is to install software prerequisites. It is very important. Do not just press install SharePoint server, because you need later to do the prerequisites, and it is not, basically it is not allowed, the system will not allow you to continue. At first you have to install the software prerequisites. When you install the prerequisites. It's starting alone. That's why I told you earlier, if you remember, I told you do not create web server. It will create SharePoint, the web server that it needs for installation. Okay, I just accept this agreement and I'm waiting. As you can see, configure web server IIS role. Now the system will start configure all these prerequisites. When I finish, the machine will ask me to restart one time. Remember, the next time that you get back the RDB, to mount quickly your ISO, because if you don't mount your ISO, you will never see this screen. You have to do it quickly, and if you mount again the SQL Server ISO, the SharePoint ISO, it will understand and it will say you that the prerequisite installation is completed. Okay, and let's go to the next step. The next step is to install SharePoint Server. How I can install SharePoint Server? I will press install SharePoint Server. I will give my product key because the first step is the product key. I hide this slide. I will accept the agreement with Microsoft and I will continue. Okay, here we have two different file locations. Okay, I will keep it. I will keep it as C. Okay, I will never change this file. I will keep it as C because I think that it is better to have in the same path these files for SharePoint. Okay, I will press install. I will wait a few minutes and then it will restart again the machine. And remember that you have to quickly again map the SharePoint ISO, and automatically it will start run the configuration wizard that we have to press run the configuration wizard. The next step is just to press next, and now we have a very important slide. Here is the connection with the database. So you have to give the name of the database server. I called it SRV SP, as you remember in the beginning, and the system creates the SharePoint config. The SharePoint config database, it is the most important database for your SharePoint farm. If you lose your config, you will lose your SharePoint. Without config database, you cannot do anything. Okay, and it is very important. It will create alone. You don't have to write the name. When you write the database server name, it will understand and it will create the SharePoint config alone. Look at the next step, which is specify database access account. Okay, I keep my domain, my NetBIOS name, Boutsioulis, and the user who is responsible to create database. Do you remember a few slides ago that I told you that I must be creator? If I am not a creator or bulk admin, I cannot make this installation. Okay, I will keep it. I will make myself bulk admin, and now I will connect with database. The next step is just to give a passphrase. I have to tell you that I always forget my passphrase. I found a PowerShell and I can change my passphrase every time, but you have to it is okay. I can understand that it's difficult to manage too many passwords. Just try to not use the same password for all your steps, because in the future it might be a disaster if someone steals your password. Okay, and the next, here we have to stay a lot. Here we have to analyze how to create your architecture. I use single server farm because from the beginning I told you that I will install everything in a server. But if I had a different approach, if I had a high availability farm, I had to give a role in my SharePoint. I have to do the same procedure from the beginning in every server, and I have to do the same, exactly the same procedure. if I made something different, I will have a problem. That's why I have to do the same procedure again and again from the when I want to install SharePoint. For example, if I am creating a high availability farm with front-end application server, distribute cache server, and search servers, I have to give the role. For example, in my last SharePoint, as I remember, I have 16 different servers, and every time I made the same procedure, and I just make a different choice here. For example, I told to the system, this is the front end, or this is the application server, or this is the search server. Okay, now I just use the single server farm because we have only one virtual machine and we need to install all together in the same machine. But remember, every time that you are creating a high availability farm, here is the point that you have to make a different selection. Okay, the next step is we have a lot of we have a lot of things that we have discussed in this slide. Because it says that, okay, specify the port number. It tells me that you have this port number, and let's go configure security settings. What I have to choose, NTLM or negotiate Kerberos? Negotiate Kerberos or NTLM? This is the big question, and I think that the best is the NTLM, because the NTLM allows you to use form-based authentication. It is very important to have form-based authentication, because in the future you will choose to do it via the authentication via one custom page. You can do it with NTLM authentication. Also, if you want to use Active Directory, simple Active Directory, you can do it with NTLM. With Negotiate Cerberus, if you log in a terminal, if you log in your PC, and your PC is joined in a domain, the system will understand your username and password. It is not recommended, because if someone else have access in your PC for a few minutes, it will have access in your SharePoint. Be careful. Be careful. It is very important. You can use NTLM authentication, or you can use a third-party provider authentication. It is advanced SharePoint how to do a third-party authentication provider, or how to make ADFS, which is the best way to approach the authentication of your SharePoint. I believe that it's the best approach, NTLM and ADFS later authentication. The next step is just completing the SharePoint product, and as you can see, here we are in the end. We have to wait a lot of time. No, it is not thank you. Now we go real. We go in the real SharePoint, and as you can see, my SharePoint finished. I keep this demo here to see live what if I was trying to do it live, all these slides, I need more than 4 hours. That's why I keep it there. And now we will see live what's happening in my SharePoint. We have to give a few minutes to my SharePoint to create the first page. And it asked me to give username and password. Okay, let's see what is happening. We need a few. Yes, if you have any question during my presentation, I would like to no, we are ready. We are ready. Can we keep it for a few minutes, because I need to show more things? Or we have any question that you need to? Do we have questions? Anzaila?
Yes, we have questions. I'm looking into it. Izhar, go
on. Thank you. That was
I didn't finish yet. I have a lot of things to do.
Yes, we have a few questions. If you'd be able to answer them.
Yes.
So Maria asks, how can IoT make a change in today's COVID-affected world, in your opinion?
How?
How can IoT make a change in today's COVID-affected world, in your opinion?
I think that IoT is a big sector of technology. I think it is the future. It is the half of the future, because the other half is the AI and machine learning. We need devices like IoT. We need to synchronize our devices with IoT, with everything, and we need to make. I think that IoT have future in the industry. I think that in the agricultural and in the industry, I think we need IoT, and we need also, we can combine a solution with IoT and Azure reporting. Okay, we can do it. Yes, I think that IoT will make a big difference in the future. It is a big sector, but we cannot combine a solution with SharePoint IoT. I have never seen a solution with SharePoint IoT.
Right. There is another question from Mr. Salar Khan. He says, is there any other platform than Azure, Microsoft, or any unpaid?
What is?
There's another question. Is there any other platform than Azure?
No, no.
Or any unpaid platform?
No, no. Because we can use it on premise. You can make a SharePoint on premise, not in Azure. I choose Azure because I have my subscription, but you can do it on premise. You have to buy a host, a big host, and you can create virtual machine. And we called it on premise. We have a different approaches. For example, we have the full online approach, or we have a private cloud approach, that I can create a lot of servers like this that I show you, and I keep it as private cloud, cannot access by others, or I can keep it in a data of Microsoft that it is near Europe. Okay, and I have the solution to do it on premise. It is the same procedure. It is the same procedure. That's why I prefer to show you the on-premise installation and not the online, because we have SharePoint Online. It's a different version of SharePoint.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Something else?
Yes, you can now continue with the next presentation. Yes, now you can continue with the next presentation. We will have the questions at the end.
Okay, I will continue with my presentation. Let me share my screen. Here we are in the real environment of SharePoint. SharePoint is not on the fly yet, but the first thing that we have to do is start the wizard. And what is the first thing that we need to do is just to choose all the services that we needed in our SharePoint. As you can see, we have a lot of services. Okay, we cannot choose all of them. I keep the defaults because I have a lot of things here that we can discuss. We have access services. That means that we have databases in my SharePoint. We have, for example, machine translation service. The machine translation service is responsible just to create something like an internal Google search machine, and it will understand, and you may educate this machine to understand what you are trying to write, what you are trying to type in your PC. That's why we use machine translation. We have managed metadata services. It is a big sector of what is metadata. I wrote an article yesterday at the night because I remember something, and I was trying to create how to use a different. For example, we use managed metadata service when we want to classify documents, and then we have to search for the class A document or the classified documents that are the most important, or documents that are critical. we can use it, manage metadata in this. Also, we can use the manage metadata to give informations in our members, and then we will try to find it easily via SharePoint search. We have project server, we have search service application, user profiles application, service application is the most important, and here is the claims to window token service. If you want to connect your SharePoint with an application with Windows or with a mobile application, you have to enable the claim to Windows token application. You have a lot of things that, that's why I told you that I can speak weeks for SharePoint. You have too many things that you can do with all these, but we have just to press no. I will use the existing account and I will press next. As you can see, the system will redirect me in the heart of SharePoint, which is the first page. We called it Central Administration. Just give me a few seconds, a few minutes, because I prefer to stay more in our presentation. It is very important to show you a few things. Also, and someone will tell me, what URL I will use to access my SharePoint. Now we have to make some changes in our SharePoint. The first change is to go and find here in my server the IIS, no accessories, no here, just give me Internet Information Services. We have to open our IIS. As you can see here, wow, we have a SharePoint Central Administration site. This is our first site collection. Now we will create a new site collection, which is the site that everyone in my organization will access, and you will see in the IIS here this new site. And then we must configure the IIS to understand the path that we are writing to access our SharePoint. We need a lot of time. If we have any question, we can keep it now. You can ask me now.
Yes.
Yes.
There's a question from Naman Rao. He asks, what are the technical benefits that Azure provide, but other cloud platform does not?
It's a big conversation. I tell you that I am using Azure because my organization prefer to use Azure. I think that all the other companies like Google or the other providers of cloud solutions, they are the same good as Microsoft. But it is a different philosophy. It is, and also it is difficult to combine solutions. For example, if I want to do SharePoint in a different cloud-based solution, I'm not sure that it will work properly. We have to discuss it. We have to discuss it a lot. I can't answer this question because it's a different philosophy. For example, if someone wants to use Google Drive, it is in the same way like to use SharePoint. SharePoint can make content, manage content, but you can manage content in Google Drive, for example, or you can make documents in another host, a cloud host. I prefer Azure because this is the Microsoft host, cloud host.
Yes, thank you. That's the question. You can continue.
Just give me a few seconds to see if we have our central administration. SharePoint is slow. It's slow in the. Now I will open in one more tab, which is the central administration. I hope to open this page. We need a few. Yes. Let me share my screen. I will share this screen. This is the heart of SharePoint. Here is the central administration. The first thing that we have to do is to create a site collection. This site collection will be the landing page for our SharePoint. the first page that when the people of our organization logged in, they will see the first page. I will name it test, I will name it SharePoint demo, SharePoint knowledge point. Okay.
Konstantinos, can you please share it once again? Share your screen once again.
To share again. Just give me a few seconds. Give me a few seconds.
Yes.
To share it again. Okay. Now I will. Are you going to share? Wait. Share this. Can you see me right now? Can you see right now my screen? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear, but I can't see.
Yes.
Yes, now I can see your screen.
Can you see? You can see my screen or me?
Yes.
Your screen I can see.
Okay. Okay. Now in this sector we have to give the username of the administrator of SharePoint, and the secondary. Okay, I give the same, and I will press OK. And now we are in the first page of SharePoint site. Just we need just a few seconds. Give us a few seconds. I know that it's a procedure. That's why I prefer to show you slides, because as you can see, it needs a lot of time to install all this feature. But I want to do it live because it is more beautiful to see the SharePoint environment live from just a simple slide. Okay, we need a few seconds. We need a few seconds, and if we have any question and I can answer, of course, I will do it. Okay, then we will press here, and you can see our first page in SharePoint. Give us a few seconds. Here it says that the top level site successfully created. Okay, it asked me the username password. As I told you earlier, I will give my username password, and it will redirect me in the first landing page. Come on. Okay, it is the first time. Okay, it is .NET based. It needs to download, I think, a lot of frameworks. Come on. Okay. Let's see. Also, as you can see, if I refresh my IIS, now I will have one more, SharePoint 80. This is the most important because here we have to go in the bindings. Oh no, advanced settings, sorry. Bindings. And now we have to edit. Here we will write the name that we will keep in the Azure, and the name will be Boutsioulis .west Europe .azure cloud app azure.com. Okay, this is the host name that I will give later in my Azure to publish this SharePoint online. Okay, then I will close my come on. Okay, it was my wrong. It was my wrong because I changed the bindings and it will not understand. If I keep it this way. Now, if I refresh, I can see my first page, but I need a few minutes. I show you that this is the configuration for the IIS. If we want to publish this in a public URL, we need to change in the IIS the bindings, because this is a local preview of SharePoint. Okay, this is the local preview of SharePoint, so that's why let's go in my Azure account. Let's go in my Azure account, and here you can see how to give the public URL. Okay, go home. From home, I have to go here. Oh, no, here. I have to go here, and then I have to find here. No, I need the IP. Just give me a few seconds. Here is the IP. So I will prefer to associate with a static IP. IP configuration, add. No, it must be the same. Okay, what we have to do, just give me a few seconds. No, we are okay. And here is, we need to make an inbound rule, because the ports are closed. If we are trying to access it from the public, we cannot have the opportunity. So source port and ranges, destination is 80. Okay, this is the first inbound rule. Any, I have to choose any. Okay, and as you can see, I can keep just only specified IP address to access my SharePoint. I keep it any because everyone in my in the net who is using the net can access my SharePoint. I will press add. I will wait a few seconds to create this inbound rule, and also in the created the security rule. We are okay now, and then we have to go in here, configuration. No, we have to use the IP. It is associated to. Okay, that's good. We need DNS. Okay, inherited from virtual network. Perfect. And the properties, network security group, we are okay. Then we have to come back in our, this is the first page of our SharePoint. Okay, this is the SharePoint environment. As you can see, we give the time and it created our new SharePoint environment. And now we can make changes. We can add our contents. If you give me a few seconds, I can show you all these features that we enable. We can find it there. We have a lot of applications that we can add in our SharePoint site. As you can see, I can add all these web parts. Okay, calendar, surveys, custom lists, discussion boards, links, and more. And I can create application for SharePoint. Okay, now I need something more, which is to give me a few seconds to find it, because I remember that was in IP, but I don't know why. The public IP we lost. Okay, we don't care. Come on. Ah. Okay. Have to connect. Let's move here. Let's move here. Yes. And in the next step is that we have to get this public IP that I deassociated now. And if I have a new host name for if I keep a new name in my account in Azure, I have to go in the SharePoint 80 port to go in the bindings and to change here. Ah, come on. It's stuck. Wait, it's stuck. Let me stop the share. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes, of course. Yes, yes.
Yes, sorry, but it's stuck. Just give me a few seconds. You give me, I will share again. I will share
No worries.
again.
Just take your time. Just take your time.
Yes,
Oh.
sure. Take your time.
Okay, I will share it again. Here we are. And I need, oh, where is the
Yes, it's fine.
RDB? Let's go again. Download the RDB. Okay. Connect. As you can see now, I'm connecting in a subnet internally, not with the public IP. It is very important to keep your SharePoint, the first SharePoint, out of the DNS. Ah, come on. I think that I had to, at first I made it wrong. I had not to delete the IP, the association of the IP. That will be the problem. Just give me a few seconds to make a new one. Okay, not a survey, but I have to go in the here. Okay, let's go in IP. Let's make an association. Associate. Okay. Just give me. What do you mean? Server IP? No. Okay, we lost it. Okay, I don't stay here. The problem is that I must not delete this associated IP. I will not try to make it now. The only thing that I have that I owe you is the bindings in the IaaS, that if I keep a name in a public IP, I will keep not to access my SharePoint with a public IP, but a domain name. Okay, if I buy a domain name for my corporation, for my organization, I will deassociate the IP address, and I will give this name to my farm, and then I have to go in my SharePoint and connect in the bindings that I show you. This was my presentation. It just failed in the last scene because I deleted the IP. I must not delete the IP, and I need now time to do it again, the association. But imagine that you cannot give to your users the IP address to access the system. It is not recommended. You have to deassociate your IP address, and you have to give a new name for your SharePoint site, okay, for your SharePoint farm. You have to give, for example, the name of your company. Like us, we have the student ambassadors domain, so we will buy a new IP and we will attach this IP to my system. And then I have to go in my SharePoint bindings, as I show you later. In the port of 80, I will do the change and I will write this name. Also, if you want to use a secure page, because as you can see, we use the HTTP protocol, and someone can tell, okay, but I would like to use a secure protocol. Then you have to create another one binding in the port 443, and you can add your certification. I cannot show you right now because I need the certification, and if you don't have certification, you have two choices: or to create yourself service certification, or to buy a certification. You have to be careful with this procedure. As you can see, one wrong, it costs me that I cannot take the RDB file. Okay, this was the live part of my presentation, but this wrong, it keeps me out of my SharePoint. That's why you have to be careful with SharePoint. Now I have to associate again to the server a new IP, and then associate a name in this IP, in this public IP, so if I type the name, I can access my SharePoint. This was my presentation. I think that I was trying to do it to make you how to do this complicated scenario. It is complicated scenario, I know, but I think it is useful for someone who wants to approach SharePoint. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Do we have any more questions?
Yes, we have a few questions. There's a question, how Azure is preferred over AWS? If you could briefly tell us about this. Explain. How Azure is preferred over AWS?
How Azure is?
How Azure can be preferred over AWS, Amazon Web Services?
Over
Okay. It is a difficult question because, look, I'm working 15 years in Microsoft products. I cannot say that the other companies are not well. They are the same. They are the same services. It is as I told you earlier, it is a philosophy. You just choose what you want to use. Okay. For example, I saw we have the SharePoint as educational product, but you can use Moodle as well as educational product. It's up to you what you want to use. I think it is the same service. I cannot tell that Microsoft is better and the other are not good. No, it is the same. It is the same. I think that it is the same service.
Right.
Yes, I would like to add in that actually the difference can be in the sense of services that Amazon is providing and Microsoft Azure is providing. There can be a difference in the sense like the products, if they are providing only the virtual machine and they are providing also virtual machine as well as artificial intelligence algorithms. They have also built in algorithms for machine learning, training algorithms for the web services, for the healthcare. They are providing some other technical skills as well in Azure. Maybe in that sense some kind of difference, and the difference can also be in the sense of price that they are providing. If you are using Windows or Azure on Windows, then there can be a difference of price in that.
And I have to tell you that we can start. I can speak about Microsoft, and I can speak about Microsoft because I saw a lot of things. I can combine solution for my company. For example, they ask me connect SharePoint with, I need a financial dashboard in SharePoint. Okay, I will do it with Power Apps. I will do it with Power BI, and I will combine a solution with SharePoint, Power BI, and Power Apps. I don't answer because I don't know all the other products. I'm working 15 years in Microsoft technologies. That's why I think that I know well this part of technology of just only for Microsoft. And I saw that we can combine a lot of solutions with AI. Yeah, because I understand that you're trying to find which is the best approach of information technology in the future. I believe that it is machine learning and artificial intelligence. And I think one big sector is IoT. IoT, artificial intelligence, machine learning. We can use machine learning and artificial intelligence in every sector of our life, and you can use IoT most in the industry. I think we need it most in the industry.
Nice.
Yes, we have a few more questions. There's a question: which app service will you choose to host a website, and how will we host a site using FTP? Kindly give, if you could kindly give an overview on this.
I prefer when I have to publish a site, I prefer use Azure. I prefer Azure. Okay, I make an application in the Azure and I make up a site there. I only always use Microsoft technologies, because here in Greece, the most of the companies uses Microsoft. I think the 95%, 96%, and many companies uses the free edition. But we have a lot to discuss with the free editions. Okay, because we need security. All the companies need security. Also, I know a lot of companies that not use Microsoft, but they use Oracle. Okay, they use Oracle for databases because they are a big company, they have safety, they have security. It's the most important, I think, for the companies. And the most important is the security.
Yeah,
Also for the FTP, it is not secure. It is not secure. You have to be careful. For example, in SharePoint, because our presentation is about SharePoint, we have the opportunity to have an FTP client and move our files, but it is not secure. I prefer to prohibit my users to use FTP.
Yes.
Great.
This is, and there's another question, like how you can relate Azure in the sense of business. Is there any benefits for the Azure that we can use Azure in the sense of business?
Any benefits? You have a lot of choices in Azure. I know that you have a lot of choices to combine your solution. You cannot find your solution in Azure. You have to combine the solution. You have to discuss your needs of your company, and you have to combine. And trust me, if you can find a better solution in another company, go. You have, I think that we have to focus where are our needs. Our needs based in a few financial dashboards or in a few educational procedure. SharePoint covers the whole of my specific needs. That's why I believe, and that's why I'm working in SharePoint and in Microsoft tools so many years. And so I told you again and again and again and again, choose a big company, choose something which is the best product, because we speak about your company. It is very important to have a safety environment. It is very important to have a safety environment in the market. And the users, the end users, or your clients will appreciate it the most, that you are caring about their safety.
Yeah, that's all. Izhar?
Screen on kar do. Yes, can you hear me? Thank you very much for.
It was an amazing experience for me. I hope to see you. I hope to travel in Pakistan in the future. When the COVID situation passed, I will travel. It's a promise to my friend Hanzaila. I will travel to make a presentation together. It is an amazing experience, and I have to tell you that I appreciate that you are the most active community that I know across the world.
Yes, it was
Yeah,
such.
yeah. You are always welcome to. We will always invite our fellow ambassadors to Pakistan, and of course the special one who are having 15 years experience in the field of education. That will be very great to have you with us.
It was a great session. We all learned a lot, and I hope each and every one learned from this. This was a very acknowledgeable session, and thank you so much for giving us your precious time.
Thank you so much.
Looking forward to seeing and meeting you again for more sessions. Thank you very much. Thank you
It
so
will be
much.
my pleasure, my pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I have ended the event. Yes, I have ended the event. Okay, Konstantinos, thank you so much. It was really an amazing session, and it is for a long time. But I say that, like we face many of the issues in this presentation, in the sense of, that are all from our side. Like the link that we provide for the joining, there was a SharePoint. There was P was small, and we share the link with P capital, and it really create a lot of disturbance in the joining for the attendees. But other than that, we also get the audience around 300 to 400 in this event. As we get to know about this issue, I just started sharing on every platform in our community, in our organization, and just in few minutes, of around 10 to 15 minutes, students comes to join the event, and we get the audience of around 300 to 400 for this event. And of course, I will for this recording I will share it on the Facebook live. It will really help other students as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, Konstantinos, bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye. Yes, so I hope. Hello. Right. I hope this this was a good session. I hope each and every one of you learned from it, and inshallah the certifications will be provided to you by tonight. That's it for this session, and I hope each and every one of you had a good experience in it. This was a wonderful session, and regarding the certifications, the certifications will be provided to you by tonight. We'll work on that.
Okay,
Right.
thank you so much. And it is was a great session, and we had a lot of audience, but we faced a lot of problems or a lot of issues in this session. But it is all from our side. We are sorry for all the inconvenience. And Konstantinos with us, and he is having a lot of experience. You can also join, take him from the LinkedIn, connect with him. And we will also provide you all the resources, and recording link will be available on the same link that you have joined. And for the recording, of course, we will share it also with you in the link, and all the resources that you are asked for, we will share it in the email very soon.
That's been provided.
Thank you.
Yes, that will be all. Thank you very much. Any inconveniences that have been caused, sorry for that, especially for the joining link. This will be provided on Facebook as well, and the certifications and the resources will be provided to you and will be sent to you in the email that you provided for this session. I guess that is all for today. We'll be bringing in more.
Thank you.
Thank you.